Hello, everybody. It is
How's it going,
us.
friends? We're here
Theoretically,
in the table scraps.
everything should be set up so that way you can hear and see us as long as it didn't blow it. We are done at the dragons.
We are Dungeons and
Man,
Dragons. That's
I
right.
need a
We
nap.
where okay, let's see. Do we have a Maz
We
in the
are the
chat here?
world.
The Wizard
We
of the
are
Coast?
children. We are the Paper Dungeon, and this is Table Scraps, the show where we talk about the show that we run on Mondays, where we play Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. We're currently hitting like 3 years of campaign, right?
We're
So
getting
somewhere around there.
close to it. So let's see. So if I remember correctly, like we actually started streaming main campaign in August of 2020, and uh but we started streaming in July, I think, if I remember correctly, because
Something like
we
that.
started doing because that's when we started doing at the end of July is when we started doing the solo
Yes.
sessions,
Yes.
and then we
That
did
is
the group
correct.
sessions.
Uh, but yeah, so it's been going on. We're actually pretty close. We are pretty close to
The end of the
the
campaign.
end of campaign one. We're getting there.
Crazy. We're getting
Things
there.
are
One
recurring.
one day at a time.
We have plugs. I'm going to do that first before we get too far into it. I'm going to go through them real fast. We have social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Go find them and look at them. Theoretically, we will update them as we get better at our jobs. By that I
Right.
mean, by the we, it's a royal we, I mean me. We have YouTube and podcast. If you want to listen to us or watch us while we're not live, those are the ways to do them, and we appreciate. We're hitting we aren't we hitting like almost like 20,000 downloads or something on
Well,
for
here,
podcasts or something.
we're getting pretty close.
It's like some like nutty number.
Oh
So
my goodness.
like
Okay,
shout
so
out to the
Podbean updated
podcast
their
people that will
interface
never
and it
see
bugs me.
this, but shout out to all
Uh,
you. Um, while Drew looks up those numbers.
yeah, I'm gonna look up those numbers.
We have a website, www.thepaperdungeon.com. On that website, we have a merch store where you can buy merch that has our logo on it and other quotes and things like that. Theoretically, we will be updating that store as well at some point in time. Right now, we just got a whole bunch of life stuff going on. So we're not doing a whole lot of much. That's a sentence. Um,
Yeah, so we are currently almost up to 18,000 overall downloads.
18,000. God, that's wild.
Yeah, it's a big number.
It's like the silent
And
majority of our viewer base.
I well see, and I always laugh because we're
Oh,
looking like at the
yo, Lemonemi,
looking
we're getting
looking at the
raided.
charts. Oh, thank you.
Grant's there. Hello, everybody. This is
How's it
just our
going?
little talk show.
Yeah, this is Table Scraps where we
Yeah,
talk about stuff.
talk about Dungeons and Dragons and things like that.
And other things
You
usually, right?
caught us halfway
Yeah.
through our beginning plugs.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
those are the
I always find
majority
it
ones.
amusing, like with the podcast. Like if you look at the charts, like there's just a lot of spikes because of when of like the intervals when I managed to
Yeah,
like
when
edit
you
just a
actually
bunch
like
of
get stuff
episodes
done.
and I just like upload like 5 episodes and like on that day we get like a couple hundred downloads and then it just
Yeah.
nosedives after that.
So, as answer to your question, Grant, what exactly are we chatting about today? We're pretty much done with our plugs that we do at the start, other than Discord. We have a Discord, so
Oh yes, we have Discord.
if you
Check
wanna
out the
pay
Discord.
attention to the stuff that we do, that's a really good way to do it. Um, and Lemonemi, thank you very much. Uh, I have seen a few of your streams. I mainly know of you from Grant. Um, but
Yes,
from what
both
I've
of us.
seen,
No,
big
yeah.
fan. Like what you do. Really cool.
And yeah, thank you
I
for the
think I
raid.
actually
We appreciate it.
do already follow Lemonemi on Twitch. I think I'm gonna have to double check that. I'm doing a show. um,
What?
but yeah, thank you. That really means a lot. Today we're first off we were going to go over a little bit of what exactly happened on the previous
On
episode.
Monday.
I
Dude,
really
that
want
was
to
a
talk about the
ride.
swords that I made for you is the most
100%.
important thing, because I don't know if you're ever going to use them
Get to
because you
use them
have another sword now.
because we changed plans
So
for what
long,
happened.
yeah. Long story short, right? Drew's character
Uh-huh.
lost their sword. Didn't like lose it, but were not able to use it anymore because they oath
Because
changes and
reasons.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a really long story. So he's getting a new one made, and in the meantime, he was using his girlfriend, who is also a god's swords,
Right.
but he hadn't actually gotten to use them. And so before the
Yeah.
last session, he was like, "Hey, DJ, who is our dungeon master, are we going to get into combat?" And I was like, "Uh-huh." And DJ was like, "Well, I don't know. There's a chance that would make my life easier." Drew was like, "Well, okay, then it would be nice to know what my swords do because those haven't been made."
Yeah, because
And DJ was like,
I don't know
"I
yet.
mean, yeah, I'll see what I can do." And I was like, "Proposition. While you go and like prep the session and like do your job, uh, how about while you do that, I homebrew the swords for Drew?"
Uh-huh.
And Deidre's like, "I'm in. Sick. Light him up." And in the next 15 minutes, I created
Awesome swords.
two of my favorite magic weapons I've ever homebrewed in Dungeons and Dragons. Um, they are a long sword and a short sword named in order Stand and Deliver. Big fan of the naming convention.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
The
Good
long
stuff.
sword has two abilities on it. It's a regular longsword, not even a +1, plus, or plus anything. But the first ability is Outmanned, and which says that the weapon deals an extra 1d8 of radiant damage per enemy within 5 feet of the user of the weapon, up to a maximum of 48. So the more people that are surrounding you, the harder you hit.
Yeah.
And then the second ability is Outmatched. So it's Outmanned and Outmatched, where as a bonus action on your turn, you can hinder enemies who desire to harm you. And for the next round, creatures have disadvantage on extra attacks after their first. You can use that once per long rest. So basically, you're like, "Ooh, geez, I'm surrounded," or "Oh, geez, I'm about to get destroyed by this boss."
Right.
Bonus action, every attack after the first one has disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I just think that's cool.
Yeah, dude.
I
100%.
think it's neat. Honestly,
Straight up Hydra killer right there.
yeah, I might change it a little bit in my brain because I'm thinking you could probably have it stand probably twice per long rest or something like that, and it probably should be like a +2 weapon.
Probably.
I didn't
would say
think
so.
about the pluses because I was just like abilities, and then that's just where my brain went. And then the short sword named Deliver is just a standard 1d6 piercing damage short sword with the ability Blood for Blood, which once per short rest on your turn, you may heal someone from the brink of death. As a bonus action on your turn, you can heal a creature who has 10 or less current hit points for 2d10 HP. You regain use of this ability after reducing an enemy to 0 HP. I like this for a number of reasons. One, you have several different ways, depending on how your DM runs it, right? You don't necessarily know, unless they're unconscious, whether or not you can use this ability. Because, like, if your DM prefers that people aren't just like, "I have 5 health," or anything like that, you just kind of have to be like, who looks bad?
Yeah, who looks real bad?
And then and for some reason I like the idea that you can only use it if they're real close to death, like 0 to 10. It can't just be like, "Oh yeah, I'll top you off with my cool sword," and then just for free as a bonus action, I'll just keep like killing things and healing people.
And it definitely makes like a lot of sense in regards to the idea of the character of that the sword actually belongs to.
Yeah.
With
So
Yggdrasil.
you can actually you know more about this than me. These were Yggdrasil's swords.
Yeah. So these
tell me about
so these two particular katanas, they're technically katanas, but in regards
One
to
of them is
mechanics,
a
they're a long sword
wakizashi,
and a short sword. Yeah. And uh, said god Atrasil um, had been captured by the enemy forces within the campaign, and so Cather, because he was there during the fight, managed to recover Atrasil's swords, and then for a long time, for a long time after that, we like never got into
Yep.
combat
No fighting.
with them,
Just like
like
talking. Ugh.
literally.
The
So
worst.
so literally, because like and like several times I'm like, oh hey, well, because and eventually it happened. Like I realized, like, oh hey, DM, I have these swords. Could I use them? He's like, I suppose you could. I'd have to think of like what they do, but sure. I was like, great. Um, but anyway, and so, but since Yggdrasil, she's the goddess of both war and life.
Life. Yeah.
And basically her main thing is being like this combat medic who like saves the lives of dying soldiers on the battlefield who like lived and fought honorable lives. Um, and so it like totally makes sense like in the mechanics of
Mm-hmm.
and the themes of the like the abilities of the swords like that would reflect that. It's like, oh yeah, like you're nearly dead, so
Yeah.
you would be
Like
healed.
you fought well. You're pretty out of there.
Yeah,
Let's get you up. And
let's
then
give you just a little pick me up.
I chose the longsword to kind of represent the war aspect of it because that's by far closer to her core domain. Like the
Mm-hmm.
healing is like a thing that happens after the fight.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes during, but for the most part, like the heavier damaging thing or the more important aspect of her is the war aspect. Um, and outmanned and outmatched, it just makes you an absolute beast offensively and defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, 100%.
and then once you get so like, there could be this really cool sequence where you're straight up mowing through the front line of this thing, and then it's just like stab, stab, kill, bonus action. People have disadvantage to hit you. During that round, you like heal someone, stab, stab, kill, heal someone again on your next round, and
Mm-hmm.
you're just like carving through and just resurrecting random soldiers at 0 health around you as a bonus action. Um, and that's that. Like my favorite thing about these is that they have mechanics that are not seen a lot in traditional Dungeons and Dragons. Like um, damage that scales depending on specific factors is very strange, right?
Oh,
Where it's
sure. Yeah.
like I would love to see more like ranged weapons that, if they're shooting in their long range, increase in damage.
Mm-hmm.
So it like
Mm-hmm.
encourages you to go for like absurdly long
Yeah.
shots or something
The
like
go
that.
for broke.
I
Yeah.
think that's so cool. Like I
Yeah.
love like weird things to trigger bonus damage that you have to kind of work around. Um, outmatched, like only affecting the second and after that hits on an opponent's turn. Really interesting. Like normally it's just you have disadvantage or you don't, and there isn't
Right.
really a like some abilities probably like when you get hit you can choose to activate it and give them disadvantage on the rest, but like I think that's
Oddly enough, I
super
think
interesting.
speaking of the disadvantage, this isn't super important, but I'm pretty sure if I recall correctly, like I think one of the original subclasses for Ranger actually has a similar ability. I'd have to here. Give me a second. I'm going to double check that. But
Go get those books, go get them. And seeing
I might be totally wrong, but I feel like I vaguely remember that.
yeah, and it's the same thing for blood, uh like recharging when you drop someone to 0 HP as well as on a short rest. um
Oh, that's what. Okay, so I did find what I was thinking of.
what
So
what's popping?
so at so for the hunter subclass at seventh level, you gain one of the following features of your choice. One of the features, multi attack defense. When a creature hits you with an attack, you gain a +4 bonus to your AC against all subsequent attacks made by that creature for the
Yeah,
rest of the turn.
I'll be honest, I totally forgot that that was a thing.
Well, nobody
That
plays like the ranger subclasses as is,
yeah,
and if you are playing like a ranger, the subclasses that you pick are like from other books
yeah, they're
other than
definitely
just the
not
player's
from the
handbook.
player's handbook. Because,
So,
oh
because the
boy.
player's handbook, they're not they're not
I
good.
would love to do something like what we did for Warlock, where we just
Oh,
made
for
like a
Ranger.
revised edition.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, like there's like some cool stuff. There's like some potential in there.
oh yeah,
It's
like
just
they're like sprinkle in little bits and pieces that are like, oh wow, that's a very clever idea, or oh that's super interesting.
it's
What an
just
original idea. And then it's surrounded by like things that will never ever matter or are
yeah,
specifically detrimental.
like it's just there's
Like,
just specific things that's just like it's so like particular as to when it comes into effect. It's just like, okay, great. So like if I have a whole campaign of this is fantastic.
yeah, could you
If I
imagine?
don't, then I'm worthless.
So like, okay, let's put it in like Lord of the Rings terms, right? So Aragorn is by all technicality probably a ranger, right?
Technically,
Like
I am
he's
of the
probably
opinion
like a ranger multi-class
into
fighter or something
paladin.
like that. Fighter or
I would
paladin.
argue like a ranger paladin
Yeah,
because
he never uses
specifically
any
because
magic, so
and
I'd
the
lean
only
away
reason
from
like
it.
I would argue like maybe like one level, maybe two into paladin, only because he technically has the ability to heal people with his hands.
That
Um,
is fair. I would all he does also sing to his girlfriend, so I would allow like the College of Valor bard.
oh, there you go. Yeah,
He's like a poet and a minstrel at some point in time.
yeah.
Um,
But yes, in regards, technically speaking, by all accounts, he is a ranger,
Now, could you imagine if someone rolled up and they were like,
which
"Oh
is
my
actually kind of
goodness"?
funny because Legolas is more like a fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Legolas is just the Terminator with pointy ears. In the movies, that is like in the books, it's like I am a skilled archer that can see and hear really long distances. And then in the movies, Legolas is just Terminator sprinting around the battlefield, like stabbing people in the neck with arrows. Like
Yeah, Legolas is
they're like,
great. I love Legolas.
hear me out. What if when we put him in the movie, he just wasn't affected by gravity at all at any point? Like, I know that like he walks light on snow, but what if he could fly? Like, or like early Superman just jump over buildings with a single bound. I think that's a much cooler character than just some idiot with a bow. And they were right, but like, come on. It is given like terrible views of what elves are for every like if every elf in that army was Legolas, literally they would have killed the entire like no one could beat them. How does Lego it's like, all right, elves, you
Well, see, it's
stand here
because
and be normal archers while Legolas does backflips off of elephants. Excuse me? What, did he learn that from Gimli? Like, I've got no words. I've got nothing for you.
uh,
Oh my god! But could you imagine? All right, beginner Dungeons and Dragon player. They're
uh-huh,
invited and they love Lord of the Rings.
uh-huh,
Favorite character is Aragorn, and they sit
uh-huh.
down at the table and the DM's like, all right, what do you wanna what do you how like what kind of I know you love Lord of the Rings. Do you want to play a character that's like kind of similar to a character from Lord of the Rings? They're like, I would love to play Aragorn. So they sit down, they make the character, blah 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 blah. They get to the
Uh-huh.
game, and they're like the DM's like, you emerged from the forest, shrouded in mist, and help out, blah 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 blah. It's like, wow, I'm Aragorn, and then they go to a mountain and you're completely useless. And
Uh-huh.
he's like, you're hunting. You, don't worry, everybody. I'm proficient in hunting down humanoids, and they're like, you're fighting dragons, and he's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, there's nothing I can do then.
Hmm. It's like
That's
it's
the
one of
end of
those
it.
things. It's like a super. It'd be a super unique feature to have a class like Ranger that has like special bonuses against certain creature types. But the problem is then you have to face those certain creature types.
Well, yeah.
So it's
So
and so
here's what they should have
it's
done is just have it be able to be, um, like learned, like
hmm
given like determine in the book what resources are required
hmm
to make a creature your favored like enemy, and then that's the problem is solved.
Uh-huh.
Like you can choose one at the start for free,
Right.
and then oh shoot, we're going up against dragons. It will require 2 weeks of time, and heck, 10 gold or something like that
Right.
to study up on this creature, assuming that you're in an area where you can study up, or in place of the gold, either some form of practical experience or a mentor or something. You can write it down, and
Right.
then now you can switch to dragons, and then you don't have to pay it again to switch back to the original type. You can only have one active at a time, but like you can continue to
Yeah,
add.
you like yeah, you just
necessity
change it in like a short rest or something.
You can do the same thing with environments, because in my mind, what rangers are the ultimate like adapters.
Right.
Like you can put them in whatever environment, and they're gonna survive.
Right.
And they're gonna hunt and kill. Instead, it's like, okay,
They're gonna
well,
figure it out.
You lived on the beach, and now there's no sand, so you don't know anything, and you can't figure it out. And it's like,
Yep.
what?
You have no. Your only survival skills are for the beach.
Yes.
And they do not. None of the things translate to any other environment
yeah,
ever.
You're chilling in a swamp.
You,
and they're like, oh man, what are we going to eat? And you're like, oh, I know. How about like a crab? And they're like, crabs aren't in swamps. And you're like, well, I guess you're right. Even though there are crabs in swamps, there are some crabs in swamps.
I would honestly like to imagine like even the more extreme version of like you're like in a beach, you're used to the beach, right? And then you're used to like all the creatures and the fauna of the beach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to a swamp and you're like, hey, do like creatures like eat other creatures in swamps? It's like, are there carnivores in swamps? Like, is that a thing?
I've noticed these strange. They seem to be some form of plant with a hard, rough exterior that are very tall, and they're like.
Are you talking about the trees?
It's a tree. You're like, what is this witchcraft?
What's the tree?
And this strange, sticky, earthen texture. What? And it's just brown instead of like a light, whitish yellow. What is this? And that's just dirt.
It's just dirt.
It's dirt.
Or maybe even mud.
And you're like, impossible. What's going on? Like, what? No, you're a right. Like, could you imagine in the movies if Aragorn was like, one did not simply walk into Mordor. It's like paved. I don't know how to do that.
Said that, but
who?
Well, Boromir was the one who said
whatever.
one does not
They're
simply
like
walk
the
into
same
Mordor,
person, except one of them's more of a jerk.
Well, not quite, but sure.
Could you imagine if Boromir was like, one does not simply walk into Mordor, and Aragorn was like, he's right, there's no trees. I wouldn't know how to get there.
I wouldn't know how to get there.
Like...
North doesn't exist in mountains, all right?
Look, the main difference between Boromir and Aragorn, I'm going to spell it out. One of them is not dead. One of them got along a lot better with their horse than the other one did. that's I'm just saying.
One died and the other had plot armor.
Yeah. I'm sorry. What can I say? I am a Lord of the Rings expert.
Really. We should talk. We should finish recapping the episode though.
Oh yeah.
We haven't talked about the episode at all.
I kind of like didn't want to talk too much about it while there was a bunch of people like rating us, because I figured let's talk about something relatable, right? But now we can talk about it. So if you noticed,
we can talk about it because they all left.
If you noticed what the name of this stream was, Mawwiage. Mawwiage is what brings us together today. Mawwiage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream. And love, true love, will follow you forever. I could go on.
I was impressed by how far you did go with that.
I have it pulled up on my phone.
That would explain
you all
it.
thought that I was a cool guy, huh? get baited.
Get debated.
But yes, we picked up with Grant, aka Edward, on his date with Sam, and let me tell you, things escalated quickly.
Yeah,
At first, it was bowling, and let me tell you, it was a riot.
it was.
I my favorite thing. I actually, so I'm just gonna say it at the start of this episode. I was talking with Grant about um, this exact kind of conversation. I think first off, this past episode was one of my favorites that we've done, just in general, and the reason for that is it was one of the best examples across the board of an improvement in like timing, comedic capability, and improvisational skill.
Mm-hmm.
It also was a very, very clear, like referenceable episode of the thing that we do that I like to call competitive ad lib, which is it's an interesting topic, and there are certainly like other groups that do stuff like this, but a lot of the time, and I love it. It really feels like when we like start a bit, uh, everyone else is constantly looking for the opportunity to improve upon it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are sitting there and they are looking for an opportunity to put themselves into this if they have something that they can add to it to make it better. And then
Right.
when they do that, then someone else is like, "Ooh, I can
Then
add
somebody
to
else
that,
does
and then
that.
I can add to that, and then I can add to that." And it isn't like us vying for attention. It's just forcing the other person to up their ante,
Mm-hmm.
which I love, and I think that us as a group really push the other members of the group to get better at entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
This episode was a like masterclass on that of just constant like, all right, I'm gonna start us off with an entry bit, and then someone immediately hops on that, and they're just like, I am going to ride this till it dies.
Yep.
And then someone else is like, not if I kick you off at first. Like,
If I take the ride from you.
oh my god,
It was fun.
it was a lot of fun. Um, and everyone just did a very good job. Like it was just very good all around, in my opinion. Um, DJ stuck with it, and after he kind of like, I could tell that he was a little afraid that things were going very badly at the start. But then we were like, no, this is hilarious. And he
We
was
got
like,
this.
all right, bet, and just leaned into it. Um, so bowling happens.
Yes.
We make fun of bowling / tiny
Yes.
bowling for
Slash
roughly
tiny bowling,
25
yes.
minutes.
Yes.
They then proceed to
Nachos are invented.
absolutely right next to a fine bottle of Merlot.
With the, yes.
They head back to the N Fellows estate, or the Fellows estate, I guess. N is just his middle names.
No. It's the End Fellows.
Yeah.
That's this whole time we thought it was his middle name. It's just his last name starts N period
For
Fellows.
so long, I thought his last name was N Fellows, like ENFELLOWS, because that's just how he says it.
Because he's Edward N Fellows.
Yeah, he never like puts a pause. It's not like my name is Edward N Fellows. He's like, I'm Edward N Fellows.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, what? We venture back to the party after they return to the mansion for some cuddling, and
Yeah.
it you know, I don't even remember entirely what we did because it went back to them pretty quick.
Well, so let's see. So it cut away from them. Cather and Kimura had their conversation
Yes.
/ board games with Abinthy.
Ah, yes, I made a cloak. I remember
You made a
this.
cloak. Yes, that's right. And then after that conversation, so after the cloak / board games / conversation with between Cather and Kimura, we went back to
Back
Edward
to Edward.
and
Things escalate quickly.
well, so because if I recall correctly, right? so we were talking, and then we realized, oh, we're trying to make plans here for like our next couple of days. We need to talk to Edward. So then then we call him up on the sending stones
Yep.
while he's in the middle of
Like, hey
snogging
bud, are you gonna be?
with
We've gotta
Sam in the
go.
gardens.
We've gotta go.
And then I'm pretty sure that's when he proposes.
Yeah. Like,
Or no, was that in the morning? I think that
well,
was
I
actually in
think,
the
yeah.
morning.
So it's like the next day,
Yeah, and so then the next day comes after
and he's
we
like, "Hey,
fast
I
forward a
need
little
to
bit. The
go.
next day
By
is
the
there.
way, when this is all over, we should just get married." And she's like,
Uh-huh.
"Bet, let's do it today." Once again, talk about like aggressive ad lib, like one up
Right.
ad lib, where
And,
he's
well,
like,
and
"Okay,
meanwhile, see, the thing is, right? I thought it was so funny because meanwhile, Aaron and I the whole time was just making fun of Edward of just how fast he's moving with it. It's just like, all right, this went from a simple bowling
yep,
date.
one." Could you imagine? They haven't even been to prom. They haven't gone to prom. One date at a bowling alley, and they're like, "We should get married."
And Grant, before we even started the stream, was like, "All right, guys, look, it's just gonna be a simple bowling day. I don't even think we don't really need to role play it all that much. It's all good. Like, it's fine. It'll just happen, then we'll move on. And then we get to the actual thing, and Grant's like, you know what? Nah,
Let's get
this ain't just a
married.
simple bowling date.
So
And
okay,
he just
in
straight up
Grant's
proposes.
in Grant's defense, this is also meant to show that like he did things during the 3 year break.
Uh huh.
Like they've probably been on not like dates, but like excuse dates
Yeah.
in the
Well, there.
3 year gap.
So I like to compare it to this. This is the greatest.
Also,
Oh, goodbye,
Handskate,
Handscape.
have a good time at Mamma Mia.
So I one of my biggest pieces of advice that I have heard and recommend to others when it comes to dating is a really good thing. Now, you don't have to do it this way, but it is a really good way to do it. Is you be friends with the person first, and then you start dating them.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, that's what basically happened for
Yeah,
Sam and Edward. They were already friends, and then they started dating.
yeah.
It's like, yeah. So it's just better that
It's
way.
just a 1-2, and then you can marry them after the first
And
date.
yeah, that's right.
That's how it works, guys.
Uh-huh.
Every time, foolproof.
Faux proof.
It's never gone wrong.
No, no exceptions ever.
Absolutely none. Um, but yeah, so Edward's like, "Hey, we should get married." Sam's like, "All right, bet now." And he's like,
And-
"I mean, okay.
Okay.
Let's just keep it small." And then in conversation with Grant, he was like, "I'll be honest, I was not ready for that, and so I didn't really know how slash if I should like get anyone else involved in this." And so he's like, I kind of just looked over at the rest of the group with a like, "I don't know where to go from here" look. Other evidence of why I am so proud of this group.
It was
It is a
so
beautiful
good.
thing in an ad lib slash like uh, improv comedy kind of deal where when you legitimately don't know how to respond to a joke, you can look
Yeah.
over to the rest of your group and they can immediately save you.
Yes.
Because we all jump in and we're
100%.
like, "I would be devastated if you were not if you did not invite me. How could you?" Like, um, I just
Very
like
true. True facts.
very wonderfully done on our part and on Grant
Yes.
for like being willing to
To just
like
go with
ask
it.
for help and to go
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. I and jokes aside, I honestly I do think story wise, it totally makes sense
Oh yeah.
for like them to get married like so suddenly because of the nature of like they already know each other. That's already we always talked about that. But like yeah, totally like the idea that like so in the whole time I was thinking in my head uh in Harry Potter um I I don't remember Bill Weasley, the oldest Weasley
Mm-hmm.
child in the story, and in part of the Deathly Hollows, he gets married to his wife Fleur, and it's brought up of like why like this because like all these terrible things are happening, right? Like they're on the
Hmm.
cusp of like this wizarding war or whatever because Voldemort's back or whatever. And like the like it's brought up, it's like, isn't this like a terrible time to get married? It's like actually, you could say it's also the best time to get married because
Yeah.
like
It also could be the only time.
because you don't know if you'll get another chance, so just go out and do it, and
Yeah.
that's what they did.
Well, I mean, that's like even kind of a military meme, right? With
Oh sure, yeah.
like someone in the military getting married incredibly quickly
Hmm.
because it's like, well, they're going off to war. So
Yep. Who knows
like
what's gonna happen?
so I think that it makes sense. Um this episode also evidenced one of the reasons why Abinthy is one of my top characters I've ever played, just in terms of enjoyment. Because
Uh-huh.
I can say that Abinthy does anything, and
Uh-huh.
everyone's like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I could see
that
it."
tracks. I could
Like
see it.
Abinthy
100%.
just having a whole demi-plane just filled with dresses made for people who will never wear them.
Yeah,
And I can just be like, "Yes, I have a
this
dress
is the thing.
already made." And the question of
And yeah,
any what, where, why, when, or how, just
it's just like
it's
nah,
not important.
it's not
It's
there.
like, yeah, okay, it's Abinthy. Like, what more did we really expect?
Yep.
Like, I could just say random baloney.
Dude, dude started making the dress the first time that he met Sam
Met
with Edward.
Sam, started making dress.
Yep.
Correction.
It's like
Sam got employed at Athala,
right.
started making dress.
Yep.
Immediate.
Uh-huh.
Because once again, apparently Abinthy has wedding outfits for every member of the government in Athala. Every single one. He
He
has
did say
their
that, didn't he?
measurements. He has their measurements. He knows them just by sight. He has perfect measurement by sight, every single dimension. Um, and then his first instinct is like,
That's well, see, that's Abinthy's ability to see the weave right
yeah,
there. You know,
he's like, yeah, I
The-
see it. I know it. I don't know what else to
like
say.
literally, like he sees people and he just sees like an outline
Yeah,
of the person,
it
and
goes
then there's
like
a little
beautiful
number.
minds, and the
Yeah.
like
Uh-huh.
graphs and the numbers start popping up, and it's just and
Yeah.
like writing on a chalkboard, but it's just a dress with different dimensions.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, it was also delved into my own personal enjoyment of talking about styles of dresses. So a little known fact about Aaron: when I was a kid, I like my mom and sister would watch TV, and I would hang out in the basement with them, and they loved watching shows like What Not to Wear, um, America's Next Top Model, things like that. So while they were watching those shows, I was reading video game manuals because I'm a nerd.
Wow, that
But
sounds extremely boring.
I loved it. You have no idea how many interesting things are contained in old video game manuals.
In old video games,
It's
yeah.
fascinating. Like Metal Gear Solid is so difficult if you do not have the manual, because the manual contains codes to call like different characters, and you can really only discover some of the codes if you have the manual.
If you interesting,
So yeah, really really interesting things are contained in game manuals, and a lot of people, and it's a dying culture.
it
Um,
it is. Yes, it is.
Manuals just aren't out there. If you've ever played La Mulana, literally the entire manual is just like an assistant's help book. Uh,
Oh yeah.
the whole thing is just ran like pictures on the side will tell you how to help like beat different bosses and things. Um, but I picked up a lot of information about clothes that I employ none of in my day to day life because I just wear t-shirt and shorts.
Yes, that
But
Aaron doesn't use.
in like middle school through junior high, just in my spare time, I would like pick out and design dresses in my head just for fun. I'm like, huh, I wonder mentally. I wonder what a horse collar neckline would look with like a modified A line, like just random things like that for no particular reason. Um, and so
I don't even know what that means.
So an A line dress It's one of the most popular styles of dress because it is flattering on pretty much any body type.
Okay.
A modified A line changes basically the flowy part of the dress
Okay.
into a slimmer. Well, it's a modified, so it just changes it in some way. The neckline is referring to like what goes around
Yeah.
the neck.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I got that part.
And a horse collar is much it's closer fitted. It's hard to describe it without. If you saw a horse collar, you'd go, "Oh yeah, that makes sense."
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
But yeah, and then so I got to do a little bit of delving into my deep dark past of designing dresses on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun for me. Man, could you
And Aaron
imagine
had a
if I
grand
was
old
like
time.
if I was a really good artist
Bro,
and I could actually use that information to like make accurate pictures of like the things that I say.
Aaron would be a dress model maker.
Put me, dude. Put me in
just a fashion designer.
like
That's the
one
word I
of
was
the
looking for.
fashion like shows, like the
Oh my goodness, dude!
the ones
Aaron,
where they just go and design a dress for a model.
So good.
I honestly,
if you were like the comedy bit, like
well, like
bro.
so here's the beautiful thing, right? My look fits on the spectrum of like appearances that would show up on the show, because there's two types. There's the person who shows up on the show and you're like, oh yes, you are clearly a blank, like the person who is clearly someone who bakes, and they're on the baking show and you're like, yeah, right, that tracks. And then there's the one who just does not look like they should be there.
Yeah, they just don't.
And that's me. That's my archetype. So if I just really put my back into it, all the way to the top, baby, all the way.
Really, the large, kind of imposing dude with long hair
and
just
a
full
backwards
beard.
hat. We're like shooting in the middle of Russian winter, and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. And they're like, see, who is this guy?
I think if you did like wear like a nice like pair of shorts and a t-shirt and like maybe like pulled your hair back, I think you could do it.
Yeah, well, I have the ability to ascend into, or maybe descend into, a very hipster aesthetic at will. I choose not to. Instead, I just look homeless.
Instead, yeah.
Which is a fine line to walk, right? But anyway, we perform said wedding, which it was so funny because like Critical Role has done a wedding. They did the wedding thing.
They did do a wedding.
I don't think it was as in depth and one-to-one to real life as this wedding was, if my memory serves me correct. I think it was like there's a wedding.
Well, so I mean, I don't know. I haven't
remember
like,
it
necessarily.
As well.
So, because basically what ended up happening, right, was, if I recall correctly, was the one shot was taking place the day before the actual wedding, and so like they're like a lot, like the guests were still arriving, like they were having like the rehearsal dinner, it was having a grand old time, and then they get attacked by vampires.
Nice.
And so that they deal with the vampires, and then like they just spontaneously like, you know what? Let's just do the wedding right now. And then like that happens, but the whole like the wedding itself gets overshadowed because Scanlan
you
pulls out a wish spell to allow Vaxildan to return momentarily to talk to his sister, Vexalia, for the wedding. Spoilers, by the way, guys.
Oh, it's like years.
But yeah, so I don't actually remember exactly what happened during the ceremony of the wedding. I know that they had Pike perform some sort of rites, but I have no idea what actually happened. I don't think
it was as one-to-one as what we had, which isn't a good or bad thing. It's just a statement because it was so awkward.
It was so awkward.
It was so great.
It was so bad.
But it was so good. So we marry DJ and Grant.
Yep.
Well,
we'll see. We went to break, and I made the joke, or I don't remember if I brought it up or if DJ or one of us brought it up for the first time. I was like, Literally just four dudes pretending to get
Yep.
married online.
Yeah. Performing a fake marriage. That's what we're here for. Um,
And DJ's reaction is like, no, no, that makes it much more awkward. That makes
no,
it much worse.
it's a one to
It's like,
one.
nope, this is what this is.
Um, but yeah, so the wedding happens.
Yep.
I this is another thing that I loved about this episode. The tone shifts were so like we managed to hit peak high and peak low at all points in time. Where
Uh-huh.
if it was a funny thing, it was like everyone was laughing, very entertaining.
Yep.
And if it was like serious, scary, sad times, it was
Uh-huh.
like no one was talking, everyone was scared and sad.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so Abinthy got to pull Cather's side, which is something that we've talked about a little bit on Table Scraps of a
Uh-huh.
potential conversation that would be interesting to be had.
Right.
Which I've been excited for, and I knew that you had already put some thought into it because you mentioned
Right.
like, I mean, hey, if Abinthy ever brings up that like idea of never leaving the battlefield, I probably have some
Mhm.
things to say about that. Or like Cather probably has some
Yeah.
input on that. And I was like, well, if you've got stuff to say, let me give you the
Then let's
opportunity to
let's
say
do
it.
it. I do.
Um,
I did love the total, like, not hidden at all, like, transition that you had of like
oh yeah,
Abinthy standing alone in the moonlight with
dude,
the hair billowing,
there's
and
nothing I love
he looks
more.
sad,
There's
and
nothing I
it's just
love
like
more
it's like
than setting a scene as though it was like you're reading it in like a script
right,
where it's like
and literally,
describing the scene and
and
it's
there's
like
no real, like, there's nothing like Apathy like looks over to Catherine and says, "Oh, hey, do you have a moment to talk?" Or like waves him over. Nah, it's just he's just standing there, and for
yes,
some reason you feel the need to talk to
no no
him.
no 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 no, it's not for some reason. It's because you look, you got to think of it. I feel like a director. I'm like pull you aside. I'm like Drew, you got to look at it. You got to not just look at it, you have to see it. Your friend and traveling companion is
It's just
standing there. He looks like he hasn't slept in days. Tears well up in the corners of his eyes. But behind them, you see a bloody and raw pain that is barely concealed by spite and anger and self hatred. The moon is high in the sky, and with your elven eyes, you can see clearer than anyone else. The
that's right.
struggle, the just earth shattering grief racking his body. Can you truly just walk away from that? Can you truly leave him alone? You're Catholic.
Just, now go get him, champ.
Yeah, like go get in there. So I'm like, I'll set the scene, um, and then we'll just go from there. I
We'll go
will
for it.
say you did a fantastic job in that conversation.
Thank
Very
you.
very
I
well
thought
done.
I thought both of the Cather conversations that happened with Kimura and with
Absolutely.
Apathy were very good.
Um,
Just to pat myself on the back a little
yeah,
bit.
you did very. As I said, everyone just kind of balled out of control last Monday.
Yeah,
Like
it was good.
conversation was good. You like just
Yeah.
everything that Abinthy said, you had a response to that made sense to your character, influenced Abinthy, and was all around just well done.
Yeah. And well, and I thought, and so like, so the funny thing with that, right, is like the setup was there, which was well done, and then, but I totally forgot about the fact that like in previous table scraps we had mentioned this kind of conversation happening. So in the moment, I'm like coming up with stuff, which I think overall is a good thing because in that because that just goes to show like again our growth and skills as people who are role playing, and like our level of understanding of our characters of being like because like the reaction the answers and the reaction that Cather gave in the moment is the same that I would still give even outside of it, even after
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it, because it's just like which is good because that means that's kind of like naturally what I went towards.
Absolutely.
um but yeah, and I thought it was great. I definitely thought it made Cather kind of help appreciate and see, Abenthy in a little bit of a different light than what he already did.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of begin to understand just a little bit more of how Abenthy thinks and what he's going through.
Well, yeah, and
And hopefully the same for Abenthy with Cather.
well, for Abinthy, one of the best parts about this conversation is that he heard something that he hasn't got like heard in conversation for, which was at no point in time did Cather try to convince him that he was a better person or a different person than he thought he was.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like there was even
Well,
like
he tried that
admittance.
before and it didn't work.
Exactly,
So
because like I mean, like in real life, the amount of conversations I've had or witnessed between people where someone's like, "Oh man, I'm just blah 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 blah," and you tell them like, "No, you're not," or you even give them reasons as to why they aren't that. It's
Mhm.
wildly ineffective.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, and I think part of that. So part of the reason that like I didn't go with that approach too was, I mean, one in previous interactions with
mm-hmm,
Cather and Abenthy, it was just like clearly that's not something that really seems to work with Abenthy, mostly because Abenthy and Cather are actually somewhat similar in that regard.
mm-hmm.
Because Cather does the same exact thing of like
Where he's like, you don't
where
know how
where
bad of a
he's
person I am.
exactly,
How
he's
could
like
you?
he's super self-deprecating and doesn't can't see all the good that he's done. But even more recently, just for myself, I think some of the more like growing up and maturity that I've begun to understand more recently is like, okay, if you if you think that you're like a terrible person and have done all these things wrong, okay, great. It doesn't really matter if that's true or not. If that's how you feel, then you can recognize that and do better.
Mm-hmm.
Just just learn how to recognize it and figure out what's wrong and move on and do it differently.
My like favorite line was towards the end of the conversation where Abinthy was like I just wish that there was someone other than me that could save her because she deserves someone better.
Hmm.
And Cather responded with like it might be true that she deserves someone better to save her, but she
Hmm.
probably wants you to do it,
Hmm.
regardless of how bad of a person you are or aren't.
Right.
Which was like that. First of all, that's just kind of a banger line. That's some snaps. That's some ghost snaps. Like second of all, that to Abinthy is like he's never considered that.
Hmm.
Like in his mind, it like he is not only attempting to basically replace who he sees as a saint in the form of Tarak, but
Hmm.
also is like trying to rescue the best person, like one of the top three people he's ever known in terms of morals,
Hmm.
while he himself is practically a villain.
Hmm.
Um, and so he's like, I don't even know if it's morally correct for me to be doing this. In fact, by even attempting it, I might be worse of a person than if I didn't at all.
Yeah. Well, I think honestly, I think it's an interesting concept because it's almost like this idea of like, why do you have to be a good person to save a good person?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, why do you have to be a good person to do a good thing?
Yeah.
You know?
Um.
Um, I think it is an interesting concept because it's just like, especially for Abinthy, because yeah, it's just like Abinthy in many ways is this kind of terrible human being,
Oh yeah,
but that,
absolute
but that,
scumbag.
you know, but that doesn't mean he doesn't at least have certain nuggets or certain moments where it's like, oh, that's like actually
Yeah.
that's
And
a
I
good thing.
and I
That's a
really
good decent
do
thing.
think that at the core of Abinthy's character, I do think that he is a good guy.
Hmm.
Like his like oh geez, what's it called? Uh, Motivation
Hmm.
is in a way selfish, where
Hmm.
it's like he wants to be a part of good stories. Like he wants to create more legends and like be the hero that people are read like are given stories about in like when they're kids.
Hmm.
It isn't that he does heroic things or does good things out of the goodness of his heart,
Hmm.
but his core is doing good things.
Right.
Now that over time has been corrupted by like having to do very bad things for good reasons when he was very young.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's kind of just traumatized from when he was a kid and like multiple times while growing up because he never really had a chance to like be an adult and he never really chose to for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
but he was still having to deal with very like adult situations and problems.
Mm-hmm.
um but like at his core, he wants to help people. He wants to like be a hero. He wants people to write stories about someone who helped people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And he wants them to be accurate. He
yeah,
wants them to be true. You know.
and actually have those things happen. So he does really do he really does want to do good things. Um, but he almost has forgotten that that's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
By a lot of things. So hearing that the idea of like it doesn't matter who you are, there's a person who wants you to be the person who helps them,
Mm-hmm.
like you specifically.
Right.
Like that's it's in a weird comparison. Have you've like worked like either retail or like food service, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Have you ever had the like person who walks in and specifically requests you?
yeah. Uh-huh.
That it
100%.
feels good.
Yeah.
It feels so different
Yeah.
than like a regular like just person who shows up.
Right. Yeah.
You're like it's super weird at a retail store, right? Because like you'll have regulars at restaurants, but like to
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
have someone walk into a retail store and be like and head to your area and like ask around to see if you're there for
Mm-hmm.
something that's like not even in your section, that's like that hits different.
Yeah.
um
Well, and I like it is kind of, and it is also interesting to think about because like and this is just like a comparison that I just literally just now came to my head, right? Like say somebody like wrongs you, right, for
mm-hmm.
whatever reason, right? And or like say you wrong somebody, right? And you feel bad about it, but you're just like, no, I can't go. They don't want me to go talk to them. I wronged them.
Yeah,
I hurt
because
them in this way.
I was the one who hurt him.
And it's like, well, no, actually, you're like the first, like you're the person that they want to hear an apology from
Yeah,
because they care about you, and like
absolutely.
they want you to like it's similar to that in a way.
I would agree
You know,
100%.
yeah,
um
yeah. No, but yeah, overall, love
yeah,
the conversation.
very good conversation. um and then we immediately return to the next morning with Abinthy absolutely bouncing off the walls because he hasn't slept in 4 days.
Because he hasn't, yeah, he's
um
literally just high on coffee.
yep, just surviving. At day 3 is when people start hallucinating, and we're on day 4, so I don't know.
Oh, poor
Things are getting
Abinthy.
wild.
See,
Things are
I
getting
really do wish
wild at
I
Caillou's
had
house.
I really do wish I had like greater restoration or something,
Overrated. Um,
Like, like, oh my goodness.
but yeah, we then head to meet Miriam Azima.
Yes.
Um,
So some slight context,
oh
right?
yes.
So the swords that Aaron made at before the episode, because there's potential of us getting into combat. Well, the part of the reason that it turns out that making those really didn't matter is because
Ah,
DJ pulled a couple strings, some DM strings, and made it so that Catherine's new sword was ready to be picked up. Um,
so we did.
and so we did that, and that happened before the wedding.
Yeah.
So Cather has his new sword, and so then because he has his new sword, he feels like it's more appropriate for them to go see Miriam Azima because he knows
He's
that that
prepped
will
and
also
ready.
include fighting the Soul Stealer,
Yes.
which he is ready to go for. Um, so yeah, but yeah, we go to see Miriam
Yep.
Azima, update her on all that's
Also,
going
we
on.
totally got her killed.
I hope.
I mean, she may not like. We might be able to save her, but like, she's definitely captured,
You think so?
without a doubt in my mind. They also probably have the next piece of the rod.
Think so?
Yes. As a DM, I'm going to say this with a
with
fair amount of
utmost
confidence.
confidence.
Also, hello, Nilith.
Well, because I'm just thinking, because like I mean, because like she went to go see somebody from the Chosen, and
Yeah,
in theory
her husband
teleported
or
like
something.
directly there,
Yeah, theoretically.
theoretically.
I'm just saying, we know that the Chosen has like rats, right?
Yes, yes.
DJ, as a person developing a story, needs to find some ways for the crucial pieces of the story to fall into place.
Uh huh.
How Miriam Azima is one of the hardest ones for that, right? Because like
Uh huh.
people
Because
already
she's, yeah,
know
because of
where
where she is.
Marcus Steele is. Pretty much all the
Right.
sacrifices are known except for Miriam Azima.
Uh huh.
Now, as a DM, if we don't go visit Miriam, probably the easiest way is to loop in the Soul Stealer, gets in
Right.
contact with them to get
Right.
rid of
And
Miriam Azima, blah, 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 blah.
right.
But we have just handed a very easy narrative device to DJ that both makes our lives more difficult, but also improves the plot. Which is
Mm-hmm.
Miriam Azima goes to the Chosen. Some of the Chosen rat her out. In doing so, they find out the location of the Rod and Miriam Azima, where if she isn't captured now, she will be because they stick a tracking device to her or they do something else.
Uh huh.
Her location is now completely given up. She's going to be captured, maybe killed. Who knows? But I'm just saying, I'm aware of it and I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose.
Aaron does.
I
Aaron
think.
cares.
I think it. You are totally 100% accurate that there's a decent chance that she goes to the Chosen, and I feel like she's gonna go to the Chosen, and stuff is gonna happen where the Chosen are. Like there's gonna be like a
Mm-hmm.
fracturing, like a little small civil war that happens
Yeah.
between like the spies and the actual true members of the Chosen. So I don't know. I feel like that it would be more accurate. Well, I shouldn't say more accurate. I think another possibility is that she isn't captured, but she does like have to go kind of like on the run with a very small group of the Chosen, and
Mm-hmm.
like the Chosen themselves, the whole organization is weakened because like they've
Yeah.
been more openly fractured. Um,
But basically,
yeah, but yeah,
we've
probably
caused
bad stuff is
problems.
gonna happen. Yeah, likely bad
What are
stuff is
you
gonna
gonna
happen.
do? You know.
Yeah.
Um, Abinthy doesn't care. Abinthy knew that that was probably going to be the case, even going there. Not
I mean, yeah.
a problem in
I mean,
Abinthy's situation.
so
Also,
so
I can use this.
And it's so here's the thing that I find very interesting, right? That I totally did not think about, but like I totally thought like I could have sworn I remember DJ saying like, oh hey, yeah, like go find the sacrifices that way we can like give them sanctuary and a safe place to be. And then this most recent episode is like, nah, dude, you can't take them away. Like they can't like exist in like other than like the
The
material plane,
core
like the astros, like
teleportable places.
yeah. And so
Um,
I'm just like, well, then, so then literally I'm thinking to myself, like, well, shoot, what's the point then? Because like a warning barely does anything. Like, just send, like, cast a couple sending spells at that point. Like, bro, Cerdo, you can go talk to them then. You go tell them what's going on.
no, the gods don't do stuff, which is that's Abinthy's biggest complaint.
Like, I'm totally down to for us to like go collect them because, like, for instance, like the gods can't, like, it's even risky for the gods to go like
Interact with them, yeah.
interact with them. But if you're just sending them a message, like you could do that for
Yeah,
wherever.
carrier interdimensional carrier pigeon. And
Like,
you're set. Um,
like the sending spell specifically goes across
but
planes.
sometimes it fails.
Yeah, like 10. There's a 10% chance. In which case, you just
Sometimes
try again.
I actually think that it might even be just like 5%.
I think it might actually be
Um,
true. I think it might only be like 5%. But
but
still,
yeah,
like even if you fail, just try again.
well, so here's the
You're a
thing,
god.
right?
You have unlimited spell slots.
DJ wrote himself into a difficult situation where, in order for the plot to go in the way that the plot should go, it
Uh-huh.
requires that the enemy obtain both the rod and the sacrifices.
Uh-huh.
So there can't be a way to like get to them and then just put them in a fully safe place
Uh-huh.
because then the plot can't finish.
Uh-huh.
Like right now, if we were just able to hide them, it is so easy to beat Clovar
Uh-huh.
because you only need
See
like one.
that okay, so that is one thing. If I'm being 100% honest, that's one thing. And to be fair, it's very challenging to do to begin with. And like there like and it's DJ's not the only person like I've noticed DM who I've noticed do this. It's just something that I've begun to notice more and more that really annoys me. Of like climactic moments of a campaign, like the final arc, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like having it be like obviously like there's a certain flow of the plot that there needs to be because it's the final arc of the whole campaign.
Mm-hmm.
However, the character's actions still need to matter because then it's a game still and not just a story,
Yeah,
you know?
it's a hard balance to
It's a
hit.
really hard balance. And so that's one of the things that I struggle with of like, okay, like clearly like the story needs to progress, right? There needs to be some sort of climax, but like I just have a hard time of like, is what we're doing matters? Like, is it even going to matter? Like, or is there going to be some sort of reasoning that all the people still get found, all the pieces of the rod still get found?
Somehow, Palpatine returned.
Exactly. Somehow Palpatine. So it's like, okay,
um,
like, what's the point of us doing any of the things that we're doing right now if it's just like, because like the thing is, right, like I would understand like the idea of like hiding the piece of the rod and hiding like the sacrifices if there was the potential for like the big climax being like a fight with those things not being involved.
yeah. Well,
However,
think of it like the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, right?
mhm,
Where like you can fight Ganon without going to any of the temples and
mhm,
like freeing your companions so that way you have
mhm,
the big machines to shoot at him.
right.
Should you? I mean, sure, but it would be harder if you
Yeah.
don't.
But and that's a decent analogy. However, I would argue it's more it feels like it's be more accurate to you go to the different beasts to collect like a special weapon that then doesn't actually matter.
Oh, that yeah, that's like what it is. Like like for us, and some of it I think is that DJ has matured a lot as a DM from start to finish.
Mhm.
And I think right now he is a better DM is having to try to work around the mistakes that he made when he was not as good as he is now. And so he's like, crap, I wrote this in a specific way.
Right.
So I can't just throw it out.
Right.
But I also
And
have to, I also know that I can do better than I did when I started.
right.
Um,
And yeah, and so like for me personally, like because again, like I totally get it. Like there's a plot that has to happen. Like a big climax fight has to happen. That's the whole campaign's been gearing up to that. So then let's not do things that ultimately won't matter
mm-hmm.
in trying to prevent this climax from happening, even though it still has to happen. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. The climax has to happen. So we can't do things to prevent the climax. And so then let's do things in preparation for the
Yep.
climax. So like for me, like let's go save Talanasha. Let's get her involved. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go gather our allies ourselves. Let's actually have the party be doing things that will actually
Yeah.
like be important.
And like as a DM, I would run it in such a way that like each part of the rod is necessary for like a specific part of like the catastrophe that is ongoing,
Mhm,
as well as each like sacrifice, like let's say we managed to warn and successfully conceal 3 of the 6. That
mhm,
still means that 3 of the 6 truths are going to be activatable or whatever.
mhm. Right.
Like guaranteed they will have one because they have Zoods. They
Right.
have Zoods Thrim.
Good old
So
Zoot
so
Thrim.
like then if you manage to save 5, congratulations. You've saved 5. You only have to deal with one thing.
Right.
If you don't save any of them, suddenly you have to deal with 6 things. That's a
Right.
problem.
Yeah. But and I would and so and that's I guess that's the thing is
More
it's
XP if we have to deal with 6 things.
like like
I'm going full
and
Gandalf.
maybe this is just because DJ's my brother, and so I'm a little more harshly judging. But like for to me, it doesn't feel like that's a thing. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like oh, like save some people and then you only have to deal with some things later. It feels like no, DJ's going to find a way to make it so that all six are getting released.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like
Or at least
you're
are being threatened to be released or
right.
something
Like
like
it's
that.
yeah, exactly. It's like
Um,
either all or nothing. Yeah.
yeah, it's. I mean, it's
And maybe
tough.
and there's the chance that I'm wrong, but that's just kind of like based off of previous events in the campaign. This is one thing that I've thought about a lot, and again, it's really only been for this final arc, which again, it's tough, it's really tough. So I
Mm-hmm.
try to give some grace because it's like this is DJ's first time trying to DM a full time campaign. He's certainly come a long ways, but like there's certainly been a lot of moments where it just feels like stuff is very like overly railroaded.
At
Um,
times, yeah, I can see it.
and 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 it's just like okay, like and it really just comes down to like I understand like certain events has to happen, so then don't make it so that the whole point of what the characters are doing are stuff that won't actually matter.
Yeah.
You know, it's like for instance, like the fight with the Fae when we're trying to save Yggdrasil. It's
Mm-hmm.
like okay, like for instance, he didn't have like any stat blocks or anything for that. It's like if you want us to actually feel like what we're doing matters, then actually actually do this properly, do this fight properly within the mechanics of the game, because then it actually feels like there is a chance for what we do to matter.
Yeah.
Or if it's not going to matter, then don't have the players be there for that fight. Like
Yeah.
just that's the biggest thing for me is like the whole point of D&D being a game and not just a story and not just like a book is the players' actions matter and the players ultimately can change the course of the campaign.
Yep.
And so there's just certain things where it's just like okay, like this could have been approached a little differently that made more sense for the function of the game
Yeah.
than you know.
It was something that
And
I
that
do
being said,
think.
okay, I did rant for a little while. That being said, I am looking forward to seeing what the climax and the ending of the campaign
For
is.
legal reasons, that's a joke.
But I do. Those are some of my more
Oh yeah,
serious critiques
absolutely.
of it. You know.
So from a DM perspective of someone who has ran like multiple long term campaigns and played in a lot of long term campaigns,
Mhm.
uh, it is for our viewers especially. It is an important thing to remember. This is like DJ's first time like DMing.
Yeah, like at
Like
all.
he has DM'd like little mini campaigns and little like one shots and stuff like that before the paper dungeon, but in terms of like running a full length campaign, never done it before.
Hmm.
So at minimum, fantastic,
Right.
because
Yeah.
this is no experience, just going into it,
For yeah first time
learning as you
ever
go,
doing absolutely great.
doing very well. um Second off, it is also difficult because you can't run it like a normal Dungeons and Dragons game,
Right.
because it's for entertainment. Like
Right.
people have to watch it. Because let me
Right.
tell you, most of the time you're running a regular campaign, it would be unwatchable on Twitch,
Yeah.
where you're just watching and you're like, what has happened for the past 4 hours
Right.
every single
100%.
night? Um, and so that's another thing that like there's no one that DJ can even really ask for advice for that, because like if it was just like running a game at home, he could turn to like
Right.
one of the 7 long-term DMs that he knows and be like, hey, what should I do
Right.
here, is this going well? For the stream game, we can give out our best suggestions and advice and kind of things, but there's no real like tried and true answer to the questions that he
Right.
has.
Right.
um like I agree with a lot of the things that you've brought up. And there are certainly things that like had I been DMing, would I have done it differently? Probably. But also, I may not have. In
Right.
the situation that he's in, I don't entirely know what I would have done. No
Right.
pirate arc. That's what I can say. um, we love the pirate arc. We love it. It was a good time. But yeah, it's DJ's in a in real bind and a pickle. I am excited because every single episode for like the past several times that we've played, I've really seen a lot of growth from DJ DMing early on to now.
True.
Like, fantastic job. Really, really, like, if we had a most improved, like, from start of campaign to end of campaign graph, like, Grant and DJ are probably the two most improved from the beginning in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I have improved in terms of like timing and some comedic elements and like some things like that. But in terms of like actually playing the game, I'm pretty much around where I was. In fact, I might be a little worse. Um, Same with you. Like, you have definitely improved a lot in terms of comedic timing and confidence and like overall just like playing the game and like knowing when and where and how to act and stuff like that. Um, but like your skill level has remained relatively similar.
Right.
Like you've
Yeah.
probably improved some just because you play it regularly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like DJ
I'm
and
slightly
Grant,
more efficient with my timing,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
DJ and
yeah,
Grant have made
overall,
leaps
yeah.
and bounds in terms of
Yeah.
actual skill requirements
Yes.
and capabilities.
Yes.
Um,
100%.
so I'm excited to see where they end up end of the campaign. I think regardless of what happens, I think that it'll be fun and I think it'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, will it be optimal? We'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we're already like 20 some minutes over where I had kind of planned to end. Is there anything else that you really want to talk about? I mean, after we meet Miriam Zima and then we head towards
Yeah, and then we
the
decide, you
Soul
know what?
Stealer.
Yeah, we basically give Miriam Zima the rundown of like, hey, this is all the things that go wrong, and she's like, great, I want to go talk to some people, and she's like,
Gotta go
okay,
talk to
great.
my hubby.
And, hey, can you help us fight the Soul Stealer? And it's like, sure. Here you go. Here's the king. Here's the keys to his house, basically,
Yeah. Follow this old blind lady.
and she will take you
This is your
to his.
Uber.
Yeah, this is your Uber, and she will take you to
If
where
you
you need to
don't give her
go.
5 stars, she will stab you before she leaves. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, and then
and
yeah,
then
but so now
that's
we're
where
just
we
getting
ended outside
yes,
of the Dark Citadel,
the dark city.
and that's where we're gonna pick up.
Yeah, so much for the Mist Runner, you know.
Yeah, mistitled that episode, blew that
Yeah.
one. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to continue. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about? Any random topics? Any Dungeons and Dragons things?
I don't think so. I'm very. I mean, other than just the fact that looking forward past the main campaign into like campaign 2.
Oh boy,
Very excited for campaign 2.
I have many things that I'm excited about
Um,
in terms of
I'm
C2.
yeah, I'm excited for when we can, for like when the two of us can more seriously have conversations about like
Mm-hmm.
character stuff, and like when we'll be able to play
Really lean
the
into it. I'm excited.
solo
I'm
shots.
excited for
I
all of the
am
solo shots.
yeah, they're gonna
I'm just
be going
very
real
excited
good.
for them.
Gonna be great. So yeah, no, I otherwise I'm all Mawwiage out.
Well, alrighty. In that case, and do you Princess Boa Cup man on waif. That is going to be the end of it today on Table Talks with Table Scraps.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through the plugs again. If you want to hear them, go to the start of the video because that's where they are.
That's where they are.
The only thing that I have left to say is the same thing that I say every time that we end the stream. Also, other than thank you, Drew, for stopping on by for Table Scraps.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
I appreciate you, and you were just a fantastic friend to have on stream.
I tried.
Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Good luck and Godspeed, Dungeoneers. We will see you next time. Also, once again, thanks for the raid, Lemonemi. Go follow them. Go join them. They're really cool. So, goodbye, everybody. It's been a blast.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.